Dolaponi from EcoBank. Good morning. Thanks for coming through.
Thanks for having
me.
We
appreciate you. Let's have a handshake first before we get started. But okay, so let's get on with the MTEF.
Yeah.
And the indicators, the key indicators in terms of price. Looks like from where we are right now, 42.50, does it look to you like a safe bet for 2017 fiscal period?
Okay, for me, again, first of all, let me say this out. I think it just still goes again to reflect that we're still not looking away from oil, first of all. If we're thinking of how we can keep on increasing prices of oil over the next few years for the MTF, that's one. But then talking about the price itself, I think it's in line with expectations in the market generally. If you look at our forecast, for instance, we've always forecasted where we see oil prices on the average for each year. And for last year, we forecasted 54, the market ended with 56. This year, we forecasted 40, the market is still averaging 40. For next year, we forecasted 46 actually. And we think that is going to be driven largely because we're seeing demand slightly changing or slightly improving. That is driven mostly in Asia. And so we're expecting the market to gradually pick up from next year. We started to see some snippets of that improvement in demand this year, but we think the bulk of it will come next year. So the market will likely start to balance properly from early next year. We may start to see more $50 oil prices in the market a lot next year as well. So for the 250 is actually a safe bet. I think it's a good bet considering where we're going. Where I see a problem again is in production side.
So the production was left, output expectations at 2.2 million liters per day. Yeah. You think right now we're shaved off by almost 50-60%?
Yeah. Currently we're doing about 1.4. If you exclude condensates, actually you might be looking at 1.3-ish in terms of what we're doing currently. So and the question is, how quickly can we get all those fuels that are currently offline back online? We know, I mean, 3 major grades are offline under force majeure: Akwa Ibom, Brass River, and Forcados as well. And Escravos is still having loading issues as well. So we still have those challenges there, which may keep us on this 1.5 million barrels per day till about October, November, and possibly till the end of the year. And then next year, we may start to see some of those fuels gradually resume back to full capacity. If the negotiations succeed
with the
militants, and we don't see any fallout from, because again, the question is, we started talking initially with MEND. And then when it looked like NDA was ready to discuss, we switched to NDA. So then we saw that MEND also started making some noise about the fact that they were also upset with the government, blah, 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 blah. So the question is, are we talking to all the militants together, NDA and MEND and all the other groups, or are we talking just to the NDA, who has been responsible for the bulk of the attacks? So it's a question of how we're going about it. Again, I also need to reiterate the fact that we need to also separate the issues. So we're talking to the militants. Militants need to recognize that damaging the pipelines carry sanctions, carry penalties, should not be rewarded. You know, if there are social issues that they're agitating for, we will address those issues. What lack of infrastructure, lack of jobs for the youth need to be addressed. But militancy in the form of destroying pipelines are punishable offenses that need to be punished. So separating those issues, understand, so that nobody tomorrow comes up and carries guns and start bombing pipelines again tomorrow, hoping that they will get something from the government. I think that's something that needs to be said so that this can be crushed once and for all. Otherwise, it will come back again tomorrow.
Do you think the way the military, the security forces are moving in the last couple of days, we heard a few incursions down there, a few militants had been killed, a few of their weapons had been seized. Do you think this is a very subtle operation going on that should be going side by side
with
negotiations?
Yeah, I think so, because again, like I said, there are two separate issues. Social agitation is you want your social amenities, which needs to be addressed, and that's the negotiation. That's the infrastructure that needs to be invested in. That's what government should be doing. But the militancy itself should be stopped, and that will require military response, and I think that's the way to go.
We have militants on one side who says they're upset with the Nigerian state, one way or the other.
Yeah.
Then you have those who are soldiers of fortune. In other words, who are just bunkerers, who are just blow up things and siphon crude and finished products on the other hand.
Yeah, so those are separate issues, exactly. And it takes some level of intelligence also too. So again, the military would have to proceed with caution. That's why I said it's a good thing if they're proceeding cautiously, because you need to gather intelligence so that you separate the issues. For instance, some of the community leaders, they met with Kachuku some weeks back, I think about a week ago or so, and they said, look, they had a lot of young people who were not militants that were incarcerated by the military and so on. Now, those are issues that, talking about the separation I was talking about, it may not be the best way to approach by trying to hold everybody, every young person you see as a militant. It's still a case of gathering enough intelligence so that you pick the right people okay, and I think that's the way to go.
If we go back to the MTEF and we look at where we're looking at, let's go back a few minutes back to the price of oil. The meeting in Algeria just a few days away from now in September, it looks like oil is down again. No thanks to Janet Yellen, the U.S. Fed chief at Jackson Hole. Dollar is up now. Crude is down. Gold is also down because there's interest rate hike possibility by the FOMC in September. That gives some cause for concern because as soon as the dollar strengthens up, everybody move into that asset very quickly, and oil is one of the whipping boys. And I saw that early this morning. We're seeing that pressure around in the market. Started last week, and it started to send jitters down the spine of the market again. And then this morning we've also seen that China is also cracking down on the independent refiners, the teapot refiners, on taxes. So that is starting to affect some of them because then they have a lot of back taxes that they need to pay. So as a result, it's reducing the volume of oil they are able to demand or import right now. So that's also putting some slight pressure on the market. But again, I'm confident that we're in the summer period and also steadily approaching the winter period. So that effect should be a bit muted in a couple of weeks, and I think we may still see oil resume back on the upward trend. Just before around the interest rate hike by the FOMC.
Yeah, so there will be pressures. The question is, if dollar actually strengthens and they carry out the interest rate hike, then oil may actually suffer. But again, like I said, I'm still confident that the $42 bet is still safe for next year.
In terms of while we're talking to the militants and doing military operations on the same side on the other side of the table, we need further investments. Right now, talk to us about how easy it is for anyone who has money to enter into the Niger Delta and say, I want to ramp up my rig, I want to do more rig count, I want to go back to do business, or to go really far offshore, away from where the militants can swim underwater and blow up those subsea oil wells.
Okay, fantastic. So because if you look at where the attacks have actually happened, the attacks have actually happened mostly onshore and shallow water offshore. I think the deepest attack we saw was Forcados, where they actually went underwater, and then Okan also too, which was some kilometers offshore before they actually could get to it. So they've not really gone very far. As a result, for instance, most of the investors we are talking to in the office are people that are interested in offshore gas, very deep water offshore gas, where they can just connect a pipeline to either to the Eastern gas gathering system or to a pipeline going to the Dangote refinery. The other side of this is the fact that we've seen a Gina project, which is Total's project, which is meant to come on stream next year. It's still on stream, it's still on track, and everything is, all the works are going on fine without being disturbed. So I think, again, investment in the deep water will likely continue. What has been the slight constraint there, again, has been the PIB, which has not been passed. So if we get some clarity about the PIB by October, Kachukwu said the remaining drafts of the PIB will be out by October. So if that comes out, we get some clarity on the fiscals for the deep water, you may start to see some reinvestment in the deep water space from maybe the last quarter of the year.
The final conversation, the last 3 minutes with you here on the program. Well, thank you very much. But do you think the PIB will come out in the last 3 months? We're already in September. We need to start working on 2017 budget. Do you think the National Assembly will have time to combine the PIB with the budget 2017? Something has got to give way here.
I mean, if you're basing it on experience, I don't think it's possible. I think the drafts will be ready. They are in the final stages that I can confirm. But will the National Assembly pass it? Based on how they've looked at even the current PIGB, the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, which was their own bill. The Senate actually the Senate committee drafted that particular bill. That hasn't been passed. So again, a bill from the executive may actually find more difficulty.
Because Christmas is around the corner, and those guys are going to go, the National Assembly will go on holiday.
Exactly. So
perhaps in 90 days from now or less.
Maybe next year, maybe early next year.
So the PIB is in the water until 2017?
Possibly until 2017. But the good thing is we'll get an idea of what's even in the fiscal side. That's really what's keeping deep water. So.
Quite an interesting conversation. Dolapo, thank you very much for coming through. You think this is the good time to invest in oil?
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. And until then, what do we do? What are you guys doing?
Gas. Let's look at gas.
Gas.
Yes.
Gas.
Let's get gas.
But gas has also been threatened. Of course, we got about $800 million from LNG was it May, June or May, in terms of tax?
Yeah.
So that helped us a little bit, $800 million. We got $1.2 billion last year. So it looks like gas is also getting buffeted.
Yeah, because of prices generally, because most of the gas contracts actually linked to oil as well. So the decline in oil has also affected gas prices. And then in Asia, China's so-called demand for gas has not really materialized. So most of the orders they got, even from Australia, they're selling it back into the market, depressing prices further. It's a nasty picture for gas as well too. But what I can tell you is that there's enough domestic market for gas. Almost all the manufacturers are having to switch to coal or LPFO or some other form of energy because they can't even get gas on the regular. I'm talking about even the Dangote cements and the likes, you know. So it means that there's that huge demand for gas. And these are not people that are stuck to $1.80 price. They are ready to pay as much as $4, $5, $6. Some are even paying as high as $7 for gas. But they're still not getting it. So there's that domestic market.
Again, because of the militants?
Exactly. So if there are ways to invest, like I said, offshore pipelines that connect directly to Lagos and bypass the Niger Delta, you might be able to get a way around it.
We might be able to get a way around it. Thank you very much, Olakpo. We appreciate your coming on the program. Early, bright and early. Yes. Monday morning. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Head of Energy Research at EcoBank Group. The conversation around the oil and gas will continue. Of course, that never ends. I will get to talk more on this issue in the days ahead. Doing business in Nigeria, the president says Nigeria will move up 20 points or 20 steps higher by the year 2019. That's the president's final year in office. He says he's currently putting in place what it would take to improve Nigeria's business environment, and that's been supported by the Director General in charge of public sector reforms. Public service reforms of government, Dr. Joe Abbott. Next, we're talking about street trading, a tale of two cities. It is illegal in Lagos. You get $220 fine if you buy or sell on the street of Lagos, but Cross River State, don't worry, do it here. Is allowed. We will come back.